On this episode, my buddy Andrew Brandt stops by. We're going to talk sports, sports business, cannabis, sports betting, a little VaynerSports. I think you're going to enjoy it. Hey everybody, this is Gary Vaynerchuk, episode 307 of the Ask GaryVee show, a special one for me. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. Andrew Brandt is in the building. I'm going to let him tell all of you who you are. If you're watching on Facebook, are we live yet? If you're watching on Facebook, I highly recommend that you... Oh, did Facebook hear that sports card rant? A little bit. That's awesome. I kind of like it because they're like, oh crap, you actually feel that's cool. Anyway, but yeah, now that we're doing the podcast, let me just tell you, I believe sports cards are about to explode in value. Graded, hard to get, old, one of ones, Zions, Giannis, 86, 87 Fleer basketball. I'll go into it later. We'll have a whole separate episode. But today we have Andrew Brandt, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. But if you're watching on Facebook, I'd like you to call in. I think you're going to have some fun. This gets into a lot of my passions and a lot of things I'm into. But what I'm always passionate about is good human beings. And I recall very vividly our first kind of get-together, and I put him directly into that category, thoughtful, good human beings. And now we're jamming together. We'll get into that in a minute. But Andrew, why don't you give him the origin story? Like, assume they don't know who you are, create the context. Who are you, my friend?
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be with you. And
thank you, bro.
We'll get into our story in a minute together. But I've always been in sports, which is really, I'm a fortunate soul because so many people want to get into sports, and here I am. I've led a life with really 3 decades in the sports business. 1 decade as an agent representing players, 1 decade as a team guy managing the Green Bay Packers, and the past decade really sort of coming into my own brand in media and academia and trying to take people behind the curtain. So I grew up in Washington, D.C., born and raised a Redskin fan. That changed. But going to games early on with my dad really sort of turned me on to the passion of sports. And even as a young kid, I was less about, and this kind of gets into your background, I was less about who's the better player, who's the better team, than more about what makes these teams successful? Why is this team always good? Why is this team always bad? Why is this league successful? Why is this player always in commercials and these
How
other
old
players?
Are you?
Now?
Yeah.
58.
Okay, so you're 15 years older than me. Okay, go ahead.
So I grew up in, the Redskins were...
The Washington Nationals the first time are gone at this point?
Yeah, they're leaving. They're Senators.
Leaving, right?
Senators when I was a baby,
right.
And I cried because I just started fouling them way back in the day with Frank Howard.
Did you have to go right to the Orioles because they were around?
Yeah, kind of the Orioles.
But it felt weird?
Kind of not baseball. I went to Orioles games because they were there, but...
What about the Bullets?
Bullets were my team. I
love Wes Unseld?
I kept a Washington Bullets journal. I was so into it. A journal. And they won in my high school years. So when they win, that's big.
Huge.
So we had Elvin Hayes, Wes Unseld, Bobby Dandridge, Tommy Henderson, Kevin GaryVee, Nick Weatherspoon, Mitch Kupchak. That was the team. And
were you super pissed when the Pearl got traded to the Knicks?
Yes.
That was devastating.
Yeah, that was before my time. That was Baltimore Bullets. So I'm not that old, but I remember him. And I remember playing those years in playoffs against like Houston with Moses Malone and San Antonio with the Iceman and that finger roll. But I was
so you're a big basketball guy.
I was into the Bullets big time because we won. And I was in those fortunate days. We won the Redskins, too, with John Riggins and that team with...
82?
That was the 70... Yeah, that was the 82 team.
It's... we would not have a friendship if the Jets beat the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game in 82 because it would have been
then
Jet
they would have
Skins,
played. Yeah.
And Riggins was a former Jet.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know that. John Riggins was a New York Jet.
People don't think about that.
No, because he's so... synonymous with the. Were you watching the Monday night game when the Heisman
I was
happened?
There.
You were physically there.
I was there with my dad, and it was, I saw the Lawrence Taylor sack, and then the
even he reacted
when
crazy.
He made the reaction that was crazy, and we just sort of sat there. In those days, you didn't see the replays, and you're not watching TV, you're not watching.
They're not even showing it in Jumbotron.
No, you're just sort of like, wow, he's down a long time. So that was the end of Theismann. It was really something because I grew up when Theismann was kind of this up-and-comer. You still had Sonny Jurgensen, who's a fixture in DC sports. And then, of course, Billy Kilmer, and then Joe Theismann was returning punts when he came in. He was
an athlete.
Imagine that, a quarterback. But I went cross country to Stanford. It was so cool.
So you were a smart kid.
I was a smart kid, but I mean, I'm looking at, I have a son at NYU, I have a son applying to colleges. Like, I could never get into Stanford these days.
Yeah, they changed.
And unless
you
I'm
have to pay now.
Buying a sailing team or whatever. But here I am. I get into Stanford.
You didn't pay $4 million to get into Stanford?
Everyone's looking at me like, what my dad, is there a Brandt wing now at Stanford? And somehow, some way I got in.
They're like, we need one more kid from D.C.
Yeah,
for the
need
quota.
a Jewish kid from D.C.
Let's go. Start with A.
Somehow
Andrew
I got
Brandt.
in. Now, that was a little different because a lot of California kids, I was trying to find my way as an East Coast kid.
So wait a minute. How close were you to overlapping with Elway?
Same year.
Get the fuck out of here.
Elway was a baseball kid more than a football kid.
He was a huge prospect.
Oh man, he was playing Yankees stuff in the off seasons. And I was the radio
You
guy.
went to Stanford when the players were on the band Cal game?
Yeah, that's my last play. My last game.
Come on.
And I did I didn't do play-by. I did color commentary for all the football and basketball games. KZSU.
You called the band game?
Yeah, and I can't find the tape.
You have to find the tape.
I have to find the tape.
No, you have to sue the state of California. You need this tape, Andrew.
Well,
this is the most important thing in your life. How are you even sitting here? Andrew, you literally need to leave right now. We'll rebook. You have to
because you don't want to hear me. Because the Cal people doing it.
Do you know this? Do you even know what we're talking about? So
he was just a thought. He wasn't even
a legendary football game. It is like one of the most.
The band.
The band was on the field. The game was over. The game was over. It was the last kickoff of.
Why do you have to do this? Why do
you?
I know this memory. Yeah,
of course you know this memory. You fucking called the play.
But I'm doing the play, and if you play the Cal tape, the guy's screaming excited. But you play the Stanford tape, we're like.
Yeah, but I'm curious what you're saying. You're like, great win for us here today. Like, I'm thinking about you saying, great win over Cal again. Super pumped. What a feeling for this to be my last game, defeating our rivals at Cal.
You know what I'm saying?
Wait, what's that? What is happening? Dude, do you know this is the great,
do you know what I'm saying?
Watch this. Hold on. I'm showing your son.
I'm saying no.
Your dad is calling this play.
I'm saying no. Knee is down. Knee is down. Knee is down.
This is the last play of the game.
Knee is down.
He's down.
Right? That's what I was saying. Don't worry. Don't worry. Knees down. Don't worry.
Wait, here's where it gets good.
They're not going to call this.
The band is on the fucking field. There's the band's on the fucking field.
God, you had to bring this up.
That's what I was saying. Don't worry.
That's what I was saying. So, and you have to bring, I got colleagues, Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Longwell, all the guys I work, everybody, Amy Trask, who's in media with me now.
Wait a minute, let's jump around
all these
here.
Cal people.
You negotiated Aaron Rodgers' contract on the Packers side. Did some of the lingering anger of that play make you negotiate harder?
No.
Okay, just was curious.
But when I met him, that was the first topic, And we can talk about drafting Aaron. That's a great story I'll tell you here.
You told me it once.
Fucking story. And then living 3 years with Aaron and Brett together, that was
shaped
something.
you as a man.
Well, that's something that you have to. No one knows.
Well,
no one knows.
Funny, I'm gonna create more context, but it's funny. I was thinking, I looked at my calendar a couple hours ago. I'm like, oh shit, today's the day we're gonna have the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's really interesting is when I think about you, obviously you've built this huge brand. You talked about it in chapter 3. A lot of people follow you for contract negotiate, like sports business. The lockout, I remember you were a fixture.
Yeah, ESPN.
You had this incredible. There's not a lot of people who spent a decade each in being an agent and then being on the team side. Your perspective. You're an articulate dude. It's why educate. It all makes sense. But it's funny you managing something like the Packers. The world I live in, I actually view you much more as like a publicly traded company executive.
Yeah.
When you're held accountable, and you're an institute. When I think about you, I'm like, I remember this. I remember leaving and be like, wow, I'm excited to get to know this guy, because one of the things I like about him is he's more similar. He probably has more advice for the CEO of Coca-Cola. When I think about the humans that walk on earth that could give great advice to CEOs or CMOs of Fortune 500 brands that have iconic brand equity, you sneakily, I know a lot of people, I want to talk to you about cannabis a little bit. I want to talk to you about sports betting. I want to talk to you about trends and how they affect sports business. But it is really funny to me when I think about where I see so much opportunity for you personally and through talking to you, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. Like, when you're running the Packers, that is like religion.
You know what was the interesting thing, Gary? When I'm at the Packers, there's no one telling me my job. Like, we had so much autonomy. Obviously, the GM on the player side and the coach on the coaching side.
Of course.
We talk about the McCarthy and stuff. But listen, Ed, I do a contract for $20 million or $50 million. No one's going to say, hey, you should have done it for 20 or you should have done it for. So I was awed by that, by the magnitude of that role, but I didn't get awed by it in my role. I always fashioned myself as a steward of a public trust. The Packers are really a national treasure. They're a public trust. So I always walked around, what would the shareholders want?
Did you ever have somebody like pull up to you at like a restaurant and be like, don't forget I own you,
Oh,
you
yeah,
work for me?
yeah,
'Cause
those
they
are
have, like,
owners.
3 shares.
The freaking cheeseheads.
Yeah.
That's them. I'm pumping gas. Like, they're tapping me on my shoulder. How's that Donald Driver contract going? I'm like, come on. You know? And
I like
then
that shit. That's good.
everyone knows everyone there. I mean, you can't. And ultimately,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
the reason we left was
And
that
when you say we, family?
family.
You and your family.
Yeah, we moved. We got out of that.
You remember?
He was
How old were
young.
you when you guys moved?
11, right?
Yeah, 11.
Are you a Packers fan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
You couldn't walk out of your house and not talk about the Packers. And I wanted more diversity for these guys. I wanted a little different life for myself.
I get it.
And you know, the team part is a
Sounds
great
like a
life.
dream. If my whole life was just talking about the Jets, I'd be happiest kid on earth.
I'll tell you, you talk about passion for the Jets. One time I'm up there with Sam, and I took off at the beginning of training camp. Everyone was signed. I'm like, I can take 3 days at the beach. Great. Go up to this northern Wisconsin beach. Beautiful. Remote. But then Mark Hadler, player
Beach
person,
or lake?
It's a lake.
Okay,
Yeah, it's on the lake.
sure.
He says, we're going to do this trade with Buffalo. We're trading this guy, David Bowens, for a tight end from the Bills. I need you to call it in from the league. I'm like, okay, no problem.
Yeah, no
it's
big
not
deal.
like messing
Yeah,
up my
no big deal.
vacation.
Yep.
Call the league office. Halfway through the call, stops. Phone dies. Look around, no cell, anything. So I see up on the corner, there's a Ranger shack. I get Sammy in his little trunks and me in my trunks, wet, walk up, hike. I drag you up to this Ranger shack. I say, listen, can I use your phone? He's like, well, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like, I'm with the Green Bay Packers. We're about to trade David Bowens to the Buffalo Bills, but I need your phone. And he looks at me like,
Yeah.
get out of my, get him
Yeah.
out of. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I like put my hand on the table, go right up to him and said, we are trading David Bowens to the Buffalo Bills if you let me. If you don't, this trade doesn't happen. And he looks at me and he says, I knew I had him because he said, why are we trading Bowens? I said, I'll tell you in a minute. So I use the
love it.
phone. I do the trade. We get him out. I said, we needed a tight end. He's like, you just, yeah.
I wish I was that Ranger.
Bring him
and
the
I wish I
paper.
was like had an opinion on the trade and altered the history of it. That's amazing.
Sam had
That's
to
really
pee.
cool.
I went. You went on the side of the shack there.
It's amazing.
It's
It's really. I don't think when
It's a
people
unique situation.
Music, sports, art. Like I don't think people realize how much silliness and all. Like I always laugh about the things that happen, like
Yeah.
the missed phone call, like the history of like everything in these sports can get. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers story is nuts.
Yeah.
I think we should go right into it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is gonna blow people away.
2005 draft night. We have our board. It's up on the
Andy's paying
wall.
attention.
If people see me on the board, see me showing the board here. So, first round grades. This is every team.
Yeah.
Everybody
grades everybody.
At that time, we had maybe 20 players above a first round line. Okay, so 30. We didn't have 32. We had 20.
20 people you think were worth a
We're
first
worth
round
a
pick.
first round pick. 24 was our pick. 24. So 2 things happened that night. Number one, everyone we wanted except one player got taken.
That's right.
We wanted DeMarcus Ware bad, Dallas. We
You were right
wanted
about
Marcus Spears bad,
Nice player.
Dallas. We wanted the guy on ESPN, my friend Pollock,
Oh yeah. Gone.
Cincinnati. We
Yep.
wanted Derek Johnson, Kansas City.
Kansas City, yep.
We wanted Pac-Man, Tennessee. So
Lucky. Yeah, he's a character.
the second thing that happened, there were issues there. The second thing that happened was no one was taking the quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, Gruden had told him he's going to take him to his face. Gruden takes Cadillac Williams. Tennessee, we thought they're taking him. No, they took Pac-Man. Kansas City, we thought no, they took Derek Johnson. we're coming up on this. And now, Gary, you got to picture this. I'm in the middle. We got management, Ted on the left with Mike. I'm sorry, Mike Sherman, not McCarthy.
Yep.
Is over here, and all these offensive coaches and stuff over here. We're about to sort of get up to our spot, and these offensive coaches are yanking me. And they're like, Andrew, we can't do this. We
Can't take
cannot
Rodgers.
do this.
Because
He's
we don't
like,
need him. We got Barb in place.
Right.
And we've got other needs.
If you're a coach,
And who do they want? And who do they want?
The last thing you want as a coach is taking a player in the first round that will not
Play
help
for
you.
years. Yep.
Not help you this year, not help you next year, maybe not help you ever. So they want us to dip into our second round grades and take
An offensive lineman, a receiver.
or even the defensive coaches.
He'd been on the board at all.
Yeah, he's a first round grade.
He's our only player up there in a first round grade.
They just never thought they'd ever get. Andy, it was 50-50 that he was going to go number one overall.
So
Alex
so
Smith
San
went
Francisco
one,
takes
and
Smith,
then the whole
and
dominoes
he
happened.
drops. So now we got all the management. And
Andrew,
all
real
these,
quick, because I like breaking up the stories
Yeah.
real quick. Gut feeling. Do you think Aaron Rodgers has as successful a career if he goes one overall?
No.
You don't. You do believe that like you knew you think he would be good, but you do believe that something happened in that hour, that chip on the couple hours, that chip on the shoulder was a tremendous fuel for more success.
Yeah, and I think backing up Brett helped. He hated it, but I think it helped rather than being thrown into whatever is going on in San Francisco.
That's not what I'm asking.
That's a different part.
Question, which is a great question, which is sitting behind Favre for 3 years.
Yeah.
Did it help? Separate question.
Right.
Chip on shoulder.
Yeah, I think so because
Yeah.
he plays
I
that
believe in
well.
that shit too,
He
man.
trades on that, and he's good at trading on that.
Brady and
He
him do the
uses
same.
it.
Brady does it too.
It's the same
I
thing.
do it too.
But
I'm an immigrant.
Brady's 200.
I got T's and F's.
I always told Aaron, Brady's 200. You're 24. I mean, how many players want
It's
to
like,
be
fuck you,
24?
Andrew. I should have been one.
I know.
Fuck Alex
That's
Smith.
him.
That's what he says.
Finishing up that story, they say, what do we always say? Now, these GMs are now all GMs. Reggie McKenzie, John
Take the best player on the board.
Right.
Uh-huh.
What does
Doesn't
the board
matter. If the Jets do that this year, we don't need more defense, Jets, if you're listening. Go ahead.
Trust the board. So here's the story. Ted Thompson says, get him on the phone. I thought he meant him, me, and the agent, Mike Sullivan, who I've known forever. I call the number. Hello? Mike? Mike's the agent's name. No, it's Aaron. Oh, my God. Aaron, it's Andrew Brandt from the Green Bay Packers. Can I talk to Mike? And I felt so bad. And then Aaron's, Mike's like, are you going to take him? Are you going to take him? I'm like, hold on. So my instructions are 15 minutes then. Yeah. And Aaron's in this room. The caterers have packed up everything. He's been there 5 hours.
Yeah,
it's
the
parents.
scene and a half. If you're watching right now, Google it.
And
Aaron
if you're
Rodgers
an
traffic,
agent.
he's supposed to go 1. It's 23. The camera's in his
They
face
changed the
whole
rule
time.
after that year.
That's
yeah.
right. In his face the whole time. And he's getting more pissed. The whole world's watching, and you're just slipping.
So I got to keep him there 12 more minutes. Said, keep him on the phone 12 minutes, and let's see if that phone rings.
Because you guys had decided that if somebody called you.
Not any offer, but if we got a good offer.
A decent offer.
A decent offer. So the whole NFL would look different. That phone, 12 minutes, you got... I'm watching Aaron. I'm watching Mike talk to me on the phone.
And guys, real quick, for everybody who's not a football nerd, at 24, all those teams in the first round that were heavily considering him, but for some reason went elsewhere, it wouldn't have cost them a fortune. They could have used a second-round pick and some other collateral. It wouldn't have been...
I don't know. Maybe second and third. Maybe 2 twos.
2 twos or a second and a third to move back into the first round, take who they wanted at 9, Pac-Man. Tennessee could have had, they had McNair. I'm trying to remember, it's hard to remember, but it wasn't like you had the 4th pick where it's like you're giving up 2 drafts to get one guy. It wasn't hard to go into 24.
Oh my God.
From the early second round, have your cake and eat it too, and take Aaron fucking Rodgers, but nobody called.
Crickets.
And you guys said, fuck it, we'll just take him.
2 minutes left on the clock. Ted says, tell him. I tell him. And
you're like on the phone with him bullshitting for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying a word because I don't want to. I don't want to hear it. I'm like, Mike, you just got to hold. You got to stay with me here. Longest 12 minutes of Aaron's life, I'm sure.
And then you say, Aaron, congratulations, you're a Green Bay Packer.
And then I hand the phone to.
So you don't know what he says next, or did you hear what he said to you?
Sherman? Immediately gets a call. I immediately get a call from Favre, agent.
Immediately.
Favre, I'm sure Favre talked to the coach.
Who was that? Buzz Cook.
And then we have a draft party. Listen to this. We have a draft party going on in Lambeau. I don't know, 1,000 people right below us.
Yeah. Booing.
Boo! Oh my God, were they booing? And I'm like, come on, guys. And like
What
everyone's...
was Buzz saying? Yelling his ass off?
He's like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Replacing him? What? I'm like, just hold on. Just hold on. And I had that conversation over 3 years. Like,
Yeah, you had two parties. I mean, you were in the middle.
like for 3 years, Brett's side is like, are you just trying to replace us? No. Aaron's side is,
The fuck are you doing to us?
He's never going to play. What are you doing?
Trade us. Did they ever really push for a trade?
No,
Never?
Not in those terms.
No.
But
They alluded to it?
I heard the phrase, he's never going to retire, many times.
Well,
Like,
they were right.
well,
Kind of didn't.
well, I mean, for years we asked Brett to come back, and that last year we frankly didn't. We didn't say don't come back, but we said it's up to you.
Yeah. He didn't like the way you phrased it.
I guess. And he now he retired, a big teary press conference. In hindsight, Mark Murphy or someone should have had the conversation, which is, we think you might want to come back at some point. You
Yeah.
might get that itch, and we're letting you know we're turning the keys over here. Because when he did come back, I was in that room. I heard that conversation where Mike McCarthy said those three words, we've moved on. And you're a Hall of Fame player. You've had that role for 17 years, and you hear those words.
Which then led to one of
That's
my greatest
powerful.
moments in football history. I'm in India on a wine
He
trip.
becomes a Jet.
And I'm like, and I get like these frantic messages at 2:30 in the morning from AJ. And now, like, there was a little rumbling right before I left, but it smoked up real heavy. And he's like, Brett Favre's going to be a Jet. There's some weird footage of like our GM and coach and like on a plane, this and that. And I'm like, and I'm on Ustream, the old like trying to stream with AJ. So he points the camera to the TV. I stayed up all night going crazy on Twitter.
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Well,
So
he
that was
wanted to
the-
go to the Vikings, and we made a trade with the Jets that he could not. They could not trade him back to the NFC North, and then of course he went to the Vikings a year later. But I love Brett. I love Aaron. No, you're never going to get me in the middle of those two.
The single best Jets win in regular season history was in week 11 or 12. I don't know when Tennessee had a bye, but the Jets with Favre were 9-3 or 9-2 or 8-2, and we played the 10-0, 8-3. We were 8-3, and we were playing the 10-0 Tennessee Titans in Nashville. And we walked in there and beat the fucking shit out of them. We beat
08?
them 30.
09?
Yeah, we beat them 30-7, 30-10.
Wow.
And I remember that was the only game. The Jets then went on to 2 AFC Championship games with, with Mark Sanchez and all that. I've been to 4 AFC Championship games, right, in my life. We've won none of them.
Right.
I've never been to the Super Bowl. And there was never a moment that I actually thought the Jets were going to the Super Bowl, except for one moment. That weird game, because they were 10-0.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good. Brady was out for the year. Brady
talking
was out
about-
for the year.
wait.
This is Favre's Jets year.
This is
Favre's Jets year.
McNair and George and
No, that was Kerry Collins. What was it?
It's 2008.
2008. Yeah. What's the final? Go to the end. The Jets. I mean, it's 33-13 at this point. 34-13. It was Kerry Collins. They had Chris Johnson run. Like, we beat-
that team,
This is
yeah.
a 10-0 team. We're beating.
Chris
We were
Johnson.
8-3. They went to 10-1. We were 8-2. I nailed it. Give me some for that. We fucking beat the shit out of them. It was the best. And I actually thought after beating a 10-0 team, 34-13 on their home turf, they were 10-0.
What happened there? They sizzled at the end, right?
Yeah,
They fizzled.
Who, the Jets?
Yeah.
Favre got hurt the next
Favre
week.
got
But
hurt.
didn't tell anybody because he's a maniac.
He never missed.
Played,
Yeah.
and we went from 9-3 to missing the playoffs. We didn't make the playoffs.
Oh, I remember that.
Did he stop playing?
Nope, he played.
He listen.
Yes, this is why
I laugh
everyone
at that
loves him.
question. That guy played through everything. I used to joke when we cut the roster in September. I said, let's just keep one quarterback. Forget two.
Yeah, don't need him.
He will never miss, ever. And
Andrew, hot takes.
when,
Sports betting.
yeah,
What's your opinion about the impact on the industry? Like, as a bit back to what I really wanted you here
Yeah.
on. Obviously, I could talk football
We could
stories,
do stories
but I want to
forever.
be fair to the audience that things about business and entrepreneurship and kind of positioning. And this is where I think you're extremely thoughtful. Just your observation of sports betting.
I think it's changing the game because what does every young person want? They want data. And data and gambling are fan engagement tools. when in the NFL and all these sports embraced fantasy 3 years ago, when the DFS and FanDuel and DraftKings exploded on the scene, people are like, well, wait a minute. The leagues have been afraid of gambling all these years. Well, they would say this is not gambling. This is betting on individual outcomes, not team outcomes. And you had Silver investing in FanDuel and I'm like, of course this is gambling. And it's fan engagement. It's bringing in so many fans that hold on to sports just because of gambling.
Football was always based on this. I mean, Jimmy the Greek, when I was a kid.
Of course it is.
They would talk about the spread on the TV. This is some 80s shit when they did all sorts of other things,
So I think two things paved the way. The DFS, the fantasy, and the lure of Vegas. I'm covering for ESPN these NFL meetings about Oakland rate transferring, and I'm talking to these owners. So what do you think about Las Vegas? They're like, well, we're not sure it's a tourism market. We're not sure it's sustainable. It's a smaller market. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What about gambling? Oh, that's fine. I'm like, what the mean it's fine? Like for 80 years, you banned Paul Horning and Alex Karras. You know, you won't let Tony Romo go to a fantasy football convention 4 years ago. What the hell happened?
Money.
Yes.
And
now they're trying to...
Let me save everybody a lot of time. Money.
So they wanted the federal statute. The Supreme Court beat them to it. For anyone who hasn't followed, May 14th, Supreme Court basically legalizes sports betting. But now it's on a state-by-state basis.
Yep, just like liquor.
Yeah.
Just like liquor.
So New Jersey, you have 7 states. I think you'll have 10 by the football season. You'll have 20 by this time next year.
You'll have 44. You'll have 44, except for 6 places that decide to go conservative, and that's it.
So Mark Cuban lets it out the first day like it just doubled our franchise value. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but look at all the revenues. The average non-betting fan watches about 15, 16 games a year in the NFL. The average betting fan watches 50. Think about the revenue generation for that. Media deals will go up. Franchise values will go up. Sponsorship deals will go up. Everything will go up because it's such a fan engagement tool.
Do you believe that we forget about the Black Sox scandal?
Yeah.
We forget about Pete. We forget about Pete Rose.
Yeah.
We forget about this. Do you believe that we are absolutely now appropriately opening up and changing with the times into sports betting, but are now in the beginning stages of something that will happen over the next 20 years where there will be a massive point shaving scandal? I mean, just for the kids in here, the Black Sox threw the World Series.
That's how commissioners started in sports. First commissioner came out of that. Judge
The Chicago
Landis.
White Sox threw the World Series.
Black Sox scandal.
Right? You didn't know that, huh? That's right, you youngsters.
19...
all you fucking youngsters watching on stream and listening on podcasts, I know you don't know this. This is how stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
The World Series, which, just to remind everybody of what happened in 1919 or whatever that was, like, baseball was baseball, football, esports, the internet. Like, it was the only thing that mattered in America.
Yeah, it was all baseball.
Oh, it was all of it. It was all of it. So now the whole thing that that America cares about gets thrown because mobsters paid off players to throw it. So now you get into the gambling bans. Now you understand why it happened.
Yeah.
Now, none of you know this. Andy's a smart kid, and he's not even 18. He's 30, right?
31.
Beautiful. And you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. This is exactly how shit comes back. But when you guys find out that the 2029 NBA Finals was thrown because the Giannis or LeBron or Steph Curry of the day, this is real. Shoeless Joe Jackson, top 10 player. Could you imagine the thought of a major... Could you imagine waking up and finding that the NBA Finals last year was thrown because LeBron didn't try? Do you understand what would happen?
All these leagues sell themselves on integrity.
And you know where I'm really scared?
Yeah.
College.
Yeah, because they're not making anything. Yeah.
That's right, because in college, the Bowling Green
Yeah.
versus Tulane
Well, it's like these,
basketball
these
game.
tennis matches
Do you
in
understand, guys?
Belarus. Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, Belarus. I'm from there.
I know you are.
Thrown. I don't even know if it's a country.
Well,
It's not.
that's where it happens. But it's out in the light, Gary, because now there's,
Now
you
the
can
question
regulate.
Is, you know what's crazy?
You can
the
regulate.
question in our society is, do people even give a fuck? It's like steroids. I'm fascinated about steroids.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anybody gives a fuck.
Baseball people do, for some reason.
And my whole
Other
thing is like, what
sports
if we
don't.
went the other way and said everybody can? Then everyone's like, oh, it's the same shit. Like, it's kind of like what we hated is hypocrisy.
Right.
We don't want one to. It throws off the equilibrium. It's a very look.
Well, the steroid thing is how do you get an edge? Like we had players in Green Bay that
what do you think about the football? I'm going to
lived
go.
in oxygenated. What is it?
Yes.
Is that too much of an edge? Should that
You
be
mean the
outlawed?
Rockies?
No, yeah, like when you, what is it called? Mountain
Yeah, the fucking Rockies.
altitude training.
Yeah.
Instead of doing
Oh,
it
altitude
on the
training.
treadmill.
Or what about the Rockies? Like
They
the
put it in their
Gallo
whole
and Ellis
house.
Burks homers back in the day count?
Exactly.
What do you think about the league? Do you think with the what was it, AAFL?
Yeah.
It folded. Obviously, XFL's coming. Like, here's a fun thing, because we're gonna be old men friend togethers. So I want to recall this clip in 28 years.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the? Let's just call them in the. I'll give hockey. I'll put soccer into it. In the 5 major sports, esports is gonna be bigger than most of them. But like, do you think there'll be a significant? Actually, basketball, football, baseball. Do you believe there will be a significant league in basketball, football, or baseball in the next 20 years, not named MLB, NBA, NFL?
Yeah. I'm giving this XFL a chance. Now,
Why?
significance a different word than...
Why?
Because unlike the league that just folded, AF, and I had those guys on my podcast, Dundon, the funder, and Ebersaw, the founder, and too many investors. They all had different goals, and they were developmental versus getting a TV deal, getting subsumed by the NFL. XFL's got one investor, as you know.
Yep.
One
Dictatorships
investor.
work.
Yeah.
Vince.
And
he
he
wants
just sold $280 million of stock. So he can fund this league. Now, what are the expectations? Are they going to have a cap? Are they going to allow to pay for big Kaepernick or pay for a Tebow? Go outside of any kind of structure, because once one owner does, everyone else is going to want to, a la USFL, and that could upset the apple
How
cart.
much did you like or hate or not care about the USFL? Because I loved it
I thought it had a chance.
because the Generals were fun.
Yeah,
I was a
they were
Jersey-
fun.
They were fun. And they were called the Jersey Generals, which was like, whoa, Jersey, we got something. And we had fucking Herschel Walker.
Well, we love football. I mean, that's why the AFU Week 1 was like, wow, this is great. And then people forgot about it, right? Like,
Do you think
Between
much like
Super Bowl-
Let me ask you a really interesting question. I'm dying to hear this
Yeah.
from you. I alluded to it earlier. I'm dying to ask this question. The same way that betting has gone down,
yeah.
do you believe that the NFL is going to have to address cannabis as that continues to evolve in our society?
Yeah, I think there'll be no policy, period. No policy. Just like everything that's
When?
evolved.
I know you're guessing. You
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
idea.
Well,
Just for
listen,
fun.
I'm always into this collective bargaining that's coming up.
Yeah.
And
you know
the-
what? Real
the-
quick, this is really fun because I want you to educate. Tell people how much is mounting up of this big player versus owner. What is it? We got one more season? We got 2 seasons?
more, yeah.
So this season's going to play, but at the end of the 2020
Yeah.
season, played out, ending in 2021.
10-year deal they did in 11. 10-year deal. Extraordinary amount for a collective bargaining agreement. And most people think it went strongly in favor of the owners. The reason I bring up cannabis is the players want a lot of things. You know, better guarantees, better minimum spend, less commissioner intrusion into their personal lives.
That's
Get rid of franchise tag. I mean, there's a laundry list.
They want to get rid of franchise tag?
Yeah, but the laundry list is only if you have something to bargain with.
And what do they have?
Well, one thing is, would they give up an 18-game season? Would they give up any requests for protests?
What's your hot take right now on how that collective bargaining agreement is going to play out? Will we miss football? Will there be games? This is super far out.
No,
There's
we won't miss games. But I hope it's not because the union caves. I just don't get it. D. Smith and Roger Goodell have been extended contractually for years now, past 2021. But they're not bargaining. They're not talking. Why? Because A, they don't like each other or trust each other. But B, the owners have too good a
Let's
deal.
start with there.
Too good a deal. Why would they negotiate? And C, the players don't have anything to bargain with. So what are they going to give to get? Cannabis.
The players have to like really swallow the ultimate pill. The problem is most of them aren't going to save enough money
Right.
to hold.
There's too many.
The only way you bargain is the reason I win so many negotiations is I'm always willing to walk.
Yeah. So, yeah,
The end. There's nothing else to say. For everybody who's watching, this is where we can help you. When you're negotiating,
leverage.
the ultimate leverage is being pumped about not having the deal happen.
And who has the leverage is I'll add to that, the party with
You're
the...
laughing because you... Why are you laughing? Because you know that's true?
It's very true for you.
Because you've seen a lot of weird shit, right? Where it seemed like something's about to happen at 11:59. Like, you know what? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you don't need to see.
I don't need anything from anybody about anything.
Exactly.
Status quo. Whoever's most comfortable with status quo is in the best position. If you
Yeah,
don't
just-
like the status quo, that's why it's so hard. Baseball owners want a salary cap. Well, good luck with that. They've never had one. Try to get a salary cap in baseball. Football players, basketball players don't want a salary cap. Well, good luck with that. They've always had one. The one thing I've heard you say
Please.
is the stars, especially NBA.
Oh, you've heard this thing?
But
I
also
got a big theory
even
on
the
this.
bargaining part, because LeBron and Paul are the leaders of the union. That has gravitas with owners. Right, nothing against Jeff Saturday and the guys that bargained for the NFL, but if you
Jeff
had,
Saturday's face with Bob Kraft
Yeah.
as a Jets fan, that Colt and that Patriot
Yeah, that wasn't good for
hugging,
you.
I was like, get me the fuck out of here. Especially after Santonio Holmes got a huge contract and drank a bottle of Cristal on the front page of the New York Post. The second we signed him, I knew we were dead.
Oh, God.
In Twitter, in 4 minutes, he's drinking Cristal. I'm like, we're
That's
finished.
not a good sign.
I'm like, we lost.
but I think if
I loved Santonio.
pick a name, if Aaron, if Drew Brees, if they were actually at the bargaining table, I'm not saying it make millions, hundreds of millions of difference, but that means something. And you talk about stars in basketball. We're at a tipping point for that because
Andrew, what can executives running big companies learn from the business of sports, in your opinion? Like, this is this is actually like the next decade or two of how I think about a relationship. Like, obviously, actually, here's a good segue. Like, Andrew's joining VaynerSports, which I'm excited about. Talk about that. How do you like AJ? Good guy?
Yeah, AJ's the greatest. Your brother AJ. I want to say quickly,
Go ahead.
I've had, since I left the Packers, a few team calls, but really more on the agent side. And so everyone says, well, can you come and be our senior advisor on agents, tell our agents what to do, learn the business, be sort of a consultant, whatever it is. And I told you this the first time we met. I've told them all no, and my instinct was to tell you no, but, and I'm not saying this because you're here, you're different. And I'm seeing, I used the word when we started, the next. Because this is not, to me, the standard sports agency asking me to advise young agents. I saw a different part here because I saw you, and I saw an ability that, hey, this can help me too.
Of course.
I can help out all your agents. Sure, I can bring them my knowledge, my expertise, my experience, maybe my gravitas in the business. But also, I can work with your brand. I want to do more speaking.
Yep.
I want to be more out there. I want to attract exactly what you're saying right now. Also, not only a sports audience and not only a sports business audience, but a business audience.
Well, it's funny. Same for me. Like, a lot of people have asked AJ and I, and me specifically, to be frank. I can't speak for AJ, maybe for him too. But they're like, it's really interesting how you're building VaynerSports. Like, why didn't you go out and get, like, you're GaryVee. Why didn't you go out and get, like, a top
Agency.
10 agent? And I'm like, because I want to build my own culture. Like,
Yeah.
if I got a big-time top 10 guy or gal, I would have to be empathetic and respect that they would want to bring whatever is their, and they've been doing it. For everybody who's looking to disrupt industries, and I've done it multiple times in my life, the number one rule is you can't bring somebody from the industry that has say to disrupt the industry.
Right.
Because they're going to go into, well, this is like, that's all they know. So we've been very methodical, and I'm really excited about you jumping on board there.
You and I are fixing the pieces. You're missing everyone knows you, and you've talked. I've heard about players that love you and text you and DM you and all this stuff, but they're not signing with you because the gravitas.
We're 24 minutes old.
The experience.
100%.
And
They
on
look me
my
dead in the face
side-
and go, I really want to go with you, but like, you guys haven't done a deal like this. You don't have somebody who's been drafted in the first round. And the entire NFL agent and player ecosystem sells fear.
I know.
It's so funny for me to watch.
And on my side,
You know what the most fun is now?
Yeah.
The 11 guys in my DM right now that said no to me 24 months ago that are like, hey, GaryVee, what's up? I know what's up, motherfucker. You fucked up, dick. That's what's up.
I know. And I get it on my side where I see people like, yeah, I read you, I follow you, but, I need scale.
Well, what's more interesting, actually, is when I audited, and it was, back to negotiating. When we met, like, I was, like, cool either way. I was excited to meet you. Like, I didn't necessarily, like you say, it's funny you say, I was thinking I was going to say no to you guys too, and we courted you. I walked in there, it was right there. And
right.
I was like, I'm excited to meet, I hear he's a nice guy, so it's going to be nice. But
Yeah.
there was like no, like, oh my God, I have to have this guy.
Right.
What was fun was actually this part was like, when you were talking, I was like, holy shit. This guy actually needs to cross over into the business world.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe, I'm going to say it one more time. Coca-Cola, IBM, like, you managed an institution as an executive, and I believe the biggest mistake that current CEOs and board members of the most iconic brands in the world, and anybody who follows me knows that is my mission, right? I am going to buy an iconic brand. I'm going to run it. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to buy the Jets. I'm going to win some Super Bowls, and we're going to call it a day. And I believe their biggest mistake is they don't realize they're running an institution.
Yeah.
You can't be the new CEO of Reebok, Coca-Cola. That's why Toys R Us failed. You have to know what you're managing. And you were managing something, it's very different. The end.
You have to understand the trust involved in that organization. Trust breeds transparency. Transparency breeds trust. You have to be honest. You have to know your brand.
The other thing, the other reason I thought you could cross over, the amount of CEOs listening right now, big companies, who have 2 heir apparents for her spot, and everybody knows that she's leaving in 18 months because it gets announced, and she has to decide. Managing those 2 forces is insanity.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
It was called Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. This is like stuff that people don't get. This is why I love sports. Sports is business. Business is sport. AJ coined something cool. I don't know if he coined it, but I'd never heard it before, where he said business is the 5th major sport.
Yeah.
And it's super
right in
real.
there. Yeah.
Dude, like the amount of disruption that we're about to do into the sports agent world is really significant. And I love the way I do things. It happened with VaynerMedia too. I announced VaynerMedia. Then it was super quiet for the first 3 years. Just nice and humble doing our thing.
Yeah.
But then everyone's like, oh, what up, big shot? I'm like, motherfucker, I'm working on the concrete and the steel. You're trying to judge me on the painting I put in the wall and what kind of sink I have. You want to see the glitz of the building. I'm building steel and concrete. That's what VaynerSports is right now. We're in steel and concrete. I'm going to have a motherfucking chandelier. I'm going to have the biggest pool. But the most fun is building steel and concrete. Because when you build steel and concrete, when you're patient, when you actually build something of truth, it's so easy to get first rounders.
Yeah.
It's called money. When you're building something real, that's steel and concrete. And then people judge. And that's why this is so fun for me. This is why I love starting new businesses. I love being overrated at first. Here I am. I'm doing this. And everyone's like, oh. But then my real thrill is not the fucking cheers I get when I announce. It's the quiet booze behind my back I get 2 years later because people don't realize I'm running a marathon.
Right. It's always the long game.
I love that. I love the eyes of all the other agents that look at me when I go to these drafts or things.
Yeah.
Combine, they look at me. I see them.
Agent meetings.
And
yeah.
I look at them and they look at me, right? And I know exactly what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, tough guy, you thought you were just going to come in here and fucking do it? And I'm thinking, I know that you're thinking, hey, tough guy, I'm going to just come in here. But what I'm really thinking is, I've got you now because now you're sleeping. Now you're underestimating me. I'm going to slice your fucking throat.
You used that word earlier, disruption. And
That one, John? That was some sick shit, right? I don't know. This is what sports does. Unlike business, sports
listen.
I'm willing to show a darker, you know this, Andy, I'm a dark dude when we play pickup basketball. Tell them.
Yeah, I got to get in there. I got to do some point guard work.
Oh, I know, you're good. I'm not a good guy.
Very, very competitive.
You're being very nice.
But listen,
I'm inappropriate.
You said the word disruption. I was an agent 30 years ago with the same guys
Who are
who are at
now?
the top of the game now.
That's right.
I won't mention names, but they're the same guys. So where has the disruption been?
There hasn't been.
What's
There's
going
been consolidation.
on? Everyone wants to be an agent. I deal with students. I deal with young people all the time.
Do you
And
know how bombarded you're about to get? Let's put it you're about to get destroyed on Twitter by every 21-year-old
Well,
at
let me-
Syracuse, Maryland, and Michigan saying, "Yo, can I get in?" I hit up AJ, I hit up Gary. Now I need you're about to get destroyed.
Well, let me ask him this then. What makes you different? So what is your different? What is your special sauce? What is your differentiator? Because everyone wants to be. I look at kids
no
like,
shit. You
I
know
wanna
who the
be an
offensive
agent.
line is of your college football team. So does everybody
why
else,
would
dick.
a player sign with you? Why? Just tell me. So you have to answer that question. Well, I was number one in my class. Well, no.
Number one in your
What
class. You better
is
not
your-
say that to me. I was fucking last in my class.
So you've got to figure it out.
You're soft if you're number one in your class.
And I always tell people that want to get into sports, never say, I love sports. That's the worst thing.
Everybody
That's
starts
assumed.
with that. By the way,
right?
everyone starts with that.
Everyone. And it's stupid.
It pisses me off to no end.
It's stupid. And so I say, and I borrow this from another podcast besides you that I listen to all the time, this guy, Tim Ferriss.
Yes, Tim's amazing.
He's the best. So he says, go narrow, go deep. And that's perfect advice. You want to be in a GM? No. What do you want to do as a GM that's different than what's being done now. You want to?
I'll give you mine. I will draft a quarterback
Okay.
in the first round of every single NFL draft.
First round.
Every time, because if
And you'd have those coaches screaming at you every year.
I got Sam Darnold right now, right?
Yeah.
So I would draft Daniel Jones in this draft,
Yeah.
right? I would draft a quarterback, Drew Lock. And if Sam is uncomfortable with me drafting another quarterback, then he's not the guy anyway. Until you have a guy, I draft a quarterback in the first round.
But
Plus, I think it's underrated asset.
But yeah, I'll challenge you.
Please.
Asset. That's a tremendous capital. Your number one pick. That's precious.
Not
asset.
like it used to be. Not like when you were around. It's not as big of a hit anymore, bro.
Not so
It's
much.
just-
I'm not even
it's
talking
not.
financially. I'm talking you only have one, right? You only have your chance at the top players once.
Yep. But the math
Use it
doesn't-
on someone that's not going to
Yeah,
play.
but that means that you believe that the first round materializes in the top players.
Well,
No, this is real, right?
I
This is
mean,
where
yeah,
it gets
I mean,
interesting. The
there's-
NFL's wild. I mean, like, this is what I keep telling AJ. This is why I'm so excited. Like, I'm very nerdy about VaynerSports. You know this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already looking at kids that I think are third and fourth round picks to the next draft.
next year, yeah.
Because I'm like, look, like fucking fourth round, like Kirk Cousins fucking, I mean, I don't even want to go. It's embarrassing to even go into it because the amount of Pro Bowlers in the third round is equal to the first round. It just
Yeah.
is.
It's an inexact science, and you spend. I mean, having lived it, you see so many man hours and millions of dollars spent on scouting, and people miss. You know, so what is
left
the
and right? Andrew,
analytic?
people miss left, and I'll tell you the thing.
Analytics is getting very involved in scouting now. For people who don't know that,
Emotional intelligence
Yeah.
needs to become a much bigger part of the equation.
And I think the interview process. I think people. You have this. What went on with Billy Beane 20 years ago is going on still, where you have the old line scouts that bird dog at the campuses.
Yeah, they're like, I like his jawline.
Yeah, and then
his
you have
girlfriend's hot.
You have the
stupidest shit of all time.
But then you have the nerds saying never draft a running back under 190 unless
Yeah,
it's
and those fucking idiots are wrong too. That's why VaynerMedia is winning. Same thing's happening in the ad world.
Right.
You have art. I like this video.
The creatives.
And then you have media saying don't pay over $3 CPMs. And they're both wrong. It's the marriage of the conflict of the two with a singular human in the middle that can juggle conflicting DNA and data.
That's what organizations need.
No shit.
They need that. I was at Green Bay. My real role was being a balance. I was the fulcrum between the football side and the business side. And the football side was like, we need him today. When are you going to sign? Can we get the player on the field today? Business side was, what about when the CBA expires in 2024? I mean, like, so sometimes I was the voice of aggression to the business. I'm like, I need to spend $1 million right here now. And sometimes the voice of caution to football, like, we spent enough on D-line this year. We're going to get that guy next year. So you have to be that balance point in a calm and rational way and be professional as much as you can to make people feel good while you're saying no.
In a world where former coaches and athletes... actually, I got a crazy Joe Theismann story.
Yeah?
I was about to say, you just talked for 2 minutes, and the world just got to see why I'm so excited about this partnership.
Thanks.
Mainly because you're talking like a big-time CEO. And as somebody who speaks a lot and goes around the country and sees former athletes and coaches speak at conferences to like, it's the big thing. I like it, but I'm like, that was a bad waste of money.
Motivational stuff.
That's right. It's a way too rah-rah. It's not real. And what I saw in you, I'm like, ooh, that's exactly real. That's exactly what I do really well. And that's why I'm a good speaker, because I'm giving macro. I'm rah-rah as fuck. But if you listen carefully, it's fucking detailed as shit to what you need.
And authentic.
That's for sure. And but there's a lot of authentic. But real quick Joe Theismann story. Joe Theismann is the opening keynote to the RE/MAX convention at the MGM Grand. 30,000, fucking 18,000, like a ton of people. I think everybody who speaks sucks. I'm in the green room just working. But I'm working on my phone, and I'm like kind of like catching it. And I'm like, wait a minute, is Joe Theismann a great speaker? So I kind of lean in, and I'm like, oh, fuck, Joe Theismann's a great speaker. Like, he crushed it. It was really good.
Really?
Yeah. But
I
here's
could
where
see that.
Here's where the story gets real good. I'm mic'd and ready to go. Theismann's coming off. Theismann comes off stage. I'm about to go on. By the way, the tail end to this story is what I'm about to tell you in the punchline. You could actually go on the internet and see. This actually, like, that's what I love about things being documented. He comes off, he's a much bigger guy than me, quarterback, looks at me, looks me dead in the face, just kills it. Everyone's clapping like crazy. There's no reason for him to do what he's about to do. He just looks at me and goes, good luck, kid. He tried to ice me. So
Theismann.
what Theismann didn't know was who the fuck he was talking to. So I go out there, this is on the internet. It's, if you want to Google it, Remax Gary Vaynerchuk keynote. I'm sure you'll find it. You see me coming out, a guy introduced me, and my opening line is, "Wasn't that amazing? Let's hear it one more time for Joe Theismann." Then I go, "How many people here knew who Joe Theismann was before he got on stage?" Everybody raises their hand. I go, "How many of you know who I am?" Spattering hands. And then I go on. Here it is. And there I go on, and I fucking destroy the place. I give a monument, because I'm pissed. I'm 24th pick overall. Because Theismann decided to punk me for no fucking reason. I go and fucking destroy this keynote. It ends. Theismann didn't get a standing ovation. I did. Standing ovation, tear down the place, and then I go, "Take that, Joe."
Was he back there?
I have no fucking idea.
That's awesome.
That's my Joe Theismann story.
That's awesome. I mean,
And-
I saw his leg broke. I'll never forget it.
What last parting shot? Like, what do you want to talk? We didn't talk about Villanova, where you're doing a lot of great work in academia. Anything else you want to sneak in here in the last minute or two?
Yeah, I mean, what I've tried to, it's sort of where I started.
And what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, I'm at Andrew Brandt. It's easy to find.
Direct?
Direct.
Like no underscores?
Yeah,
just
and
you put it up there. Yeah.
I mean, what I've tried to do for these past 9 years is really, for lack of a better phrase, Gary, give back. You know,
brother.
because
I know why I
whether
like
it's
you.
teaching, talking, podcasting, lecturing, writing. I write my weekly column at MMQB, that's Sports Illustrated. My podcast, which we may be, doing some stuff with you guys.
Yes. We got
Giving back, because I've been able to gain this knowledge. And you know what? As a team guy and even as an agent guy, they can't talk. I mean, they're all party line. They all say the same things. Our team's great. Our players are great. What I've been able to do is talk, and it's been liberating about what goes on behind the curtain, about what goes on inside the ropes, and give back that knowledge to young people, to older people, professionals looking. Because, as you said, this business of sports is business. It's out there, and it all transfers. It's all transferable to everything everyone does. So, yeah, I mean, follow me on Twitter. I'll be working with Gary. We're going to do some exciting things here, too.
I agree. Question of the day. You get to ask a question. What have you been thinking about? What's top of mind? What's in the culture? You got thousands of entrepreneurs listening live now, and then obviously with the podcast, a lot of people are going to listen to it, so they may reply to you on Twitter. What's your question for the masses? And this is like, when I have guests on, I always tell them either a burning question that you've always had or something you're trying to get insight of right this minute, that you're curious about the temperature of the collective right now.
I guess to me, even a sports context as much as a real world context, what's the future of data?
Interesting.
And even on the, I'm kind of a fitness nerd freak. I do my races. What about we have Apple Watches, we have Fitbits, but we're just tipping the iceberg here. I mean, we're going to know in a few years, what.
Don't lead the audience to the answer.
Okay.
All right. You'll put out
Where's
more
data
content.
going?
Awesome.
Where is data going? Where are measurables going? Where are wearables
And
going?
your website? You have one?
I have my own, yeah.
What is
Andrew-Brandt.com.
Who's got AndrewBrandt.com?
Somebody.
Somebody who wanted too much money for the name?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Doesn't even use it. Columns on mmqb.com, Business of Sports podcast. I run a program at Villanova. Got a big event next Friday, a week from today. We're going to have Michael Rubin.
Nice.
Is going to speak. Future sports stuff. Darren Ravel will be there. Michelle Roberts, head of the NBAPA. Val Ackerman, the head of the Big East Conference. I'll be interviewing them all. So that'll be fun,
awesome.
too. More at Symposium. But all kinds of things going on. And again, I tweet a lot. And I think you're going to get me into some of these other social media channels that I haven't been doing.
It's awesome. Andrew, thanks for being on.
Pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
You keep asking questions. We'll keep answering them.